Welcome to episode 1 of the Hate or Love It podcast. We had an exciting week in college football, recruiting wrapping itself up, more coaching carousel changes in the Pacific Northwest, as well as obviously the college football playoff. We've got a lot to get to in a short period of time, so let's get it cracking. Yesterday, the college football playoff dropped a bracket that pissed off the probably 25% of the heartland of the United States, as well as Utah. Let's get up under the hood and break this down from top to bottom. Obviously, Indiana beats Ohio State, so they flip-flop. Indiana is now 1, Ohio State is 2. Georgia goes belt to rear end on Alabama. They did not go anywhere, and then Texas Tech did a bit of the same to an abysmal BYU offense. So no movement for Texas Tech either after their win in the Big 12 championship. We've got them at 1, 2, 3, and 4. A playoff where Indiana and Texas Tech are both in the top 4 did not seem like anything that we would see in our lifetime 3 years ago. But here we are. Shout out to the NIL. Shout out oil money. Shout out Mark Cuban and whoever else is pouring into that Indiana program. As far as the rest of the field goes, we've got the Ducks at 5, Ole Miss at 6, Texas A&M at 7, Oklahoma at 8, Alabama at 9, at 10 we've got Miami, at 11 we've got Tulane, and then rounding at the field at 12, we have James Madison University. So who got snubbed? We got Notre Dame, BYU, Texas, Vandy, all feeling as though they deserve spots in the field. So you put that together, we've got 2 separate faith-based institutions pissed off. We've got some SEC money pissed off, and that gives us a very, very aggravated game of foursquare on the wrong side of the recess fence going on between the 4 of them. And that is why I believe a 16-team field is going to be inevitable next year. I believe the CFP committee pushed their decision on that back 6 to 8 weeks within the last week or two. I think January 23rd is going to be the decision date for what the field looks like next year, what new rules, implications, etc. are. But let's get into the here and now. Round 1, we're going to have the Oregon Ducks matched up with James Madison at home as a 21.5 point favorite. Give me the Ducks to cover. We've got Alabama at Oklahoma in Norman. Give me Oklahoma to cover and win that game, delivering an upset to Alabama. I just don't think Alabama has enough going for them right now to get over the hump that will be the Sooners in Norman. I know Oklahoma's offense has been sputtering as well, but I just simply think that Alabama is making too many mistakes down the home stretch of their season to defeat that team in Norman. And we got Ole Miss and Tulane matched up. I believe Tulane is going to be a 16.5 point dog. I think earlier in the year they lost by 5 scores to Ole Miss, although that was in Oxford. Optimistically, would love for them to cover the spread. I just don't see it happening. Ole Miss is going to come into this game like a bottled up, shooken up hornet after losing Lane Kiffin. They've got a lot to prove. They're playing with a lot of emotion and anger. I could see them actually beating Tulane worse than they did earlier in the year, despite this being at a neutral site this time. Give me the Rebs. Lastly, we've got A&M and Miami matched up. Mario Cristobal has not shown the ability to organize a team successfully for 4 quarters or play call successfully for 4 quarters in any game that matters in his career yet. So I don't see that happening on the road in one of the most hostile environments in college football. Give me A&M and give me them covering. I don't know what the spread is, but give it to me because I see Miami falling apart, turning the ball over, and this just being kind of a nightmare scenario where a lot of people end up asking, why did Notre Dame not get this nod over Miami in hindsight? That runs us into the quarterfinals. We've got Oregon versus Texas Tech at a neutral site. I believe it's going to be Miami. Give me the Ducks. Give me the Ducks at 21-17. Texas Tech's offense is just not impressive, in my opinion. Granted, they have a very, very stout defense. I just simply don't see Texas Tech being able to move the ball consistently on Oregon's defense. I see potentially even a defensive score for Oregon, or at least some short fields set up by takeaways from this Oregon defense, and Texas Tech just not being able to get over the hump that is the Oregon Ducks. The other game on this side of the quarterfinals bracket is going to be Oklahoma versus Indiana. I may be slightly generous to Oklahoma here. I've got this as a 24-10 win for Indiana. I could see Indiana stretching it out even more than that just because that defense is suffocating. Everybody has had a very difficult time moving the ball on these guys with what Indiana just did to Ohio State's defense. Granted, I know it was only 13-10 game. Ohio State's defense is just loaded. There's so much talent there, and for them to pull out a win, even if it was maybe slightly zebra-aided, I see them being an absolute headache for Oklahoma. On the other side of the bracket, that's going to give us Georgia versus Ole Miss. Give me the Bulldogs. Give me the Bulldogs by 7 at 24-17. I think Ole Miss is a super talented football team. I just don't see them getting this done in the playoffs against Georgia. That Georgia team is also loaded, and it seems like they're kind of starting to hit their stride right at the right time of the year, which could be scary for everybody in the field. Last game on the other side of the bracket is going to be Texas A&M versus Ohio State. Give me Ohio State at 24-20. I think this will be a good football game to watch. I just don't see this A&M team beating an Ohio State team who made A&M's only loss of the year look very, very dysfunctional week one. Granted, they might have been a little bit more underprepared at that point of the season. I don't see A&M getting it done over Ohio State. That is going to bring us to the semifinals, and this is where my rose-colored glasses come out. Give me the Ducks at 21-20 over Indiana in the rematch. 1-point thriller. Cinderella slips at midnight. Give me the 5 seed Oregon Ducks over number 1 Indiana in a 21-20 game. I'm just thinking there's no way that Will, Dan, and Tosh go into this game with the same game plan as they did for our home matchup. I think it's hard to beat a team twice in the same year. And I think with the amount of talent on this Oregon roster, there's absolutely no reason that we should not be able to pull through against Indiana in a rematch. The semifinal matchup on the other side of the bracket, as I just mentioned, is going to be Georgia versus Ohio State. Give me Georgia 31, Ohio State 21. There may be a little bit of Ohio State dislike sprinkled into that take. There may be a little bit of Terrell Pryor PTSD as well as the Rose Bowl last year PTSD. Ohio State is the bane of my existence. And quite simply, I am just never going to pick them to be in my national championship. Georgia flexes. Ohio State finds someone else to blame on this loss. Probably calling for Ryan Day's head again. Very on brand. This brings us to the national championship. For my national champion, I have the Oregon Ducks winning 31-28 over the Georgia Bulldogs. Dan Lanning avenges his first ass whooping as the Oregon Ducks head coach, which was that 2022 demolition put on by the Georgia Bulldogs. He ends up beating the program that he was hired out by the Oregon Ducks from, and this ends up being the cherry on top of the last dance for our big three, that is Dan Lanning, Will Stein, and Tosh Lupoy. Our one and only title run before the band broke up. And look, I know what this sounds like. I'm now far enough removed from getting embarrassed at home by Indiana that the 20% of my brain that believes the Oregon Ducks will win the national championship is now screaming at 100%. That's probably the PNW homer in me. The Oregon Duck himself feels like he is spending quite a bit of time pulling strings under my hat like Remy and Ratatouille. But that's college football, that's being a fan, and that's what Hate It or Love It is all about. And quite frankly, I love my Ducks. So someone cue up Sup With Your Girl on Spotify because I love my Ducks. All right, Pacific Northwest, we've got a bit of a carousel going on. We've got some rebuilding going on. Let's hop into that. The Oregon State 2026 recruiting class is rough. Like, are we sure this is a Division I FBS program rough? But Oregon State just hired Jamarcus Shepard from Alabama. And this dude is a home run hire, in my opinion. I don't know if he's got the best PR team in the world, if the Beavs recently hired the best PR team in the world, or if this guy is just one of my top 5 favorite humans on the planet. But everything that I've seen screams culture builder. High character, high connection, high intentionality. He wants to bring alumni back. He wants to unite the fan base. And he gives OSU an identity again. He makes them the Beavs, not just Oregon State. And I really think that the next 3 to 5 years of Oregon State football could shock quite a few people. Wazoo, my Cougs. Poured one out for you this weekend. It was a Keystone because, quite frankly, who wants those in the fridge? Jimmy Rogers dipped. Coach leaves once again. 1 year, bowl game, gone. That makes back-to-back seasons where the Cougs lose their head coach before the next season even starts. We've got no athletic director. They've got no coach. We've got a roster in limbo and a fan base that's currently running hot board roulette trying to figure out who's next. Obviously, we got names circulating, a few regionally based, a few up and comers, but nothing is locked yet. We'll have some more updates on that as that develops. This could go off the rails, or hopefully they luck into a situation where we've got something like Jamarcus Shepard coming up to the Palouse and somebody who's actually looking to build something for the next half decade. Things are pretty unpredictable in Pullman, always have been, always will be. Only thing that you can count on is win or lose, Cougs are going to booze. The Dogs, the Washington Huskies. Let's give credit where credit's due. Jed Fish just brought in the number 12 ranked recruiting class, according to 24/7, number 16 ranked recruiting class, according to On3. Either way, that averages out to being a top 15 class. That's the best recruiting class that has ever landed at the University of Washington. Jed's got some momentum, Jed's got some money, and Jed's got a staff that finally might be allowed to sleep indoors. But also, let's keep in mind that he is a visor guy, based in Seattle, where it rains 9 months out of the year. So let's keep an eye on that aesthetic and see how long that lasts. And now, once again, let's talk about my Ducks. Yes, we lost 2 coordinators, both of which will be coaching for us the remainder of the playoffs. But let's also talk about the coaching lab that Dan Lanning is running under Autzen Stadium. I know it's not official, but it is sounding like Drew Maringer and Chris Hampton are going to be internal promotes to OC and DC. I could be wrong. If I am, I will make a statement on that. If those do end up being the final choices, though, if we do end up just literally reloading with people who are already on campus, then Oregon losing coordinators and instantly promoting them from in-house feels exactly like the In the Club music video where Eminem and Dr. Dre are standing in the lab in white coats watching 50 Cent be built with wires sticking out of him. If those are the promotions made, then that's what Dan Lanning feels like right now. Stein leaves for Kentucky. Cool. Dan swipes the touchscreen. Maringer.exe boots up in the cryo chamber. Tosh goes home to Cal. Already handled. Chris Hampton is literally dangling from the ceiling, doing inverted core work in the Autzen basement, like he's charging up to 100%. Then Oregon isn't hiring coordinators, they're printing them. Cue up Maringer and Hampton for me doing sit-ups from the rafters, with Dan preloading the 2026 playbook into their brain like downloadable content. Give me your takes, give me your beef, give me your actuallys in the comments. This was episode 1 of Hate It or Love It. Whether you hated it, whether you loved it, I hope you watched it. I will see you next week.